The 2024 draft class, the quarterbacks in particular, candidly, the entire draft, I think has a chance, if you just sort of take the temperature of it, a dozen weeks into the rookie seasons of these guys, has a chance to be one of the genuinely great draft classes of all time. You look at all the picks that went high, show me the ones that aren't working. And look at, even if you're going later in the round, look at guys like Jared Verse and Quinyon Mitchell. These are star young defensive players. And obviously Malik Neighbors, despite the overwhelming awfulness of his team, looks really good. And Rome Odunze looks really good. And Marvin Harrison looks really good. And Joe Alt of the Chargers looks really good. All these guys look good. And then you get to the quarterbacks. And the quarterbacks is generally the way these drafts tend to be remembered. The greatest quarterback draft class of all time is 1983. There were 6 quarterbacks who went in round 1. 3 of them are in the Hall of Fame: John Elway, Jim Kelly, and Dan Marino. That's the order in which they were selected. Amongst those 3, also drafted that year were Todd Blackledge, Tony Eason, and Ken O'Brien. Of those 3 guys, I think O'Brien had the best career. Tony Eason did quarterback a team to a Super Bowl once, the Patriots, who got obliterated by the Bears in Super Bowl 20. Anyway, the point I'm making is there were 6 quarterbacks who went in the first 12 picks this past year. 2 of them have grades of incomplete. J.J. McCarthy got hurt. He hasn't played a snap and will not. Michael Penix has hardly played for the Falcons, so we really can't talk about them yet. The other 4 guys, Caleb Williams, who went 1, Jaden Daniels, who went 2, Drake May, who went 3, and Bo Nix, who went 12, have all looked at different times varying levels of excellent. And the only thing I can say about all of them is they are extraordinarily promising. So I think there is a real chance, and this is ridiculously premature because they've played 12 games of their rookie year, so you can't make any bold pronouncements, but I think if you're just trying to project, they look like they're all going to hit. Those 4 guys are all going to be really good players. There's 2 separate questions that can be asked of them. One of them is, if you were redrafting the class, in what order would you take them? That's a different question than which ones have played the best. I was calling Jaden Daniels the rookie of the century 3 weeks ago. Now I believe he is the runner-up for rookie of the year. If the award were given out right now, it would go to Bo Nix.
He is minus 150. Bo Nix is plus 125. Jaden Daniels was as deep as minus 1,200 a couple weeks ago.
So, and I think it's going to keep going in that direction.
If things keep going the way they have been.
Bo Nix is a testament to a couple of things. Okay, I once used the analogy of a lump of clay, right? If Michelangelo, the greatest sculptor who ever lived, was going to make a sculpture, famous sculpture like the Statue of David. First of all, you need exceptional clay. He couldn't have made that with lesser clay. So the quality of the clay has a lot to do with how good the sculpture winds up being. But the sculptor, the person making the sculpture, is just as, if not more important. So Bo Nix is not as good a clay as the other 3 guys, but he wound up in the hands of the guy with exactly the right chisel. Sean Payton identified a player who had 58 starts as a collegian? Whatever it was the most quarterback starts of any player in NCAA history. So he had the experience, the maturity, been through adversity at Auburn, put up monstrous numbers at Oregon, and fits in ways that Sean understands that I couldn't explain, fits exactly what he wants to do. The offense he wants to run, the offense that Drew Brees ran for him so well to the tune of a Super Bowl and so many great seasons and so many great records and everything else. He identified Bo Nix as the guy. He somehow looked through those glasses that he wears, which looked like he borrowed them from my mom. I don't know what glasses it is Sean is wearing on the sideline, but he's showing you again that he's a freaking unbelievable coach. Unbelievable. What he's doing with Bo Nix is ridiculous. You watch them play, you look like you were watching a 10-year veteran. Bo Nix looks like a guy who's been playing for 10 years. That's the value of great coaching. Right now, I would pick Bo Nix as the rookie of the year.
61 college starts for
61.
Bo Nix.
Okay, there you go.
Over his last 10 games. 20 touchdowns, 2 turnovers. Only 15 sacks taken. When you watch Bo Nix play, everything's crisp. Everything's precise. The ball's out quick and goes where it's supposed to go. He's running that system like a veteran, kind of like how Drew Brees did, and he has the benefit of playing across a defense right now that ranks 3rd in the league. I think this team is dangerous and live when it comes to the playoffs this season.
Yeah.
Because they have themselves a quarterback that's not going to hurt you and a top 5 defense.
Are they 7-5?
Yes.
And they had a chip shot field goal blocked on the last play of the game that would have beat Kansas City.
Won 7-10. They lost their first 2 games. They're 7-10.
So and one of those was that loss.
One play.
So like that team is legit, that coach is legit, and that quarterback is legit. If you were drafting them in a vacuum, you'd still take him 4th. Because in a vacuum, you're just drafting the clay, right? So if you're just drafting the clay, we could have a fascinating debate over what order you would put the first 3. Like, I keep going back to what Tim Hasselbeck said leading up to the draft over and over and over again. Tim, who worked at ACC Network and did so many of Drake May's games, he kept saying, what everyone is saying about Drake May is not true. Drake May is freakishly athletic. He is freakishly gifted. He's unbelievably young. Is Drake May still 21? I think Drake May is only
22 now.
He may have just turned 22.
The point remains, yeah.
He's ridiculously young. Drake May, who was the guy everyone said shouldn't be out there at all because he's on a terrible team and needed all of this seasoning, like he's taking his lumps, but he looks great. I'm not sure I wouldn't take him first in a vacuum.
He'd be first for me.
His clay, he may have the best clay.
He's got the best clay. I mean, it's the 2nd best QBR in the class behind Jaden Daniels in an impossibly bad situation.
Right.
He's the only good thing they have going up there, and he's more than faking it. I thought he's played great relative to what you might expect up there.
He's on by far the worst team.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that team is awful.
Jaden Daniels has been incredible. The clay is spectacular. The maturity is spectacular. The growth, the leadership, everything else. The durability remains the only question mark because he's never going to be big. He's always going to be small. And then Caleb, it started about as badly as it could start. The coaching was about as bad as it could be. He had the worst sculptor ever. I mean, Shane Waldron, I think, is the guy who made the Dwayne Wade statue in Miami. That's how bad a sculptor he is. And I don't know if Thomas Brown is Michelangelo or not, but in 2 weeks, he has made Caleb Williams look like what we expected him to look like. If Caleb Williams had played early in the season the way he's playing right now, we'd be saying, oh my God, the Bears have finally got it. They have found their savior. The Bears, after 100 years, have found their guy. So this is an indication of how important the coaching is. I think if I were drafting them now, I think I would go May 1, Caleb 2, Jaden 3, Nix 4.
I think I would go with the same order, and that's because if we're going to neutralize the context, imagine what, for example, Caleb Williams would be doing in Denver.
Except that Sean Payton identified a very particular, if I may quote my close personal friend Liam Neeson, and I say that jokingly, I've never met Liam Neeson,
okay.
But when he said, I happen to have a very particular set of skills. Do you know what that is?
No.
Do you know who Liam Neeson is?
Is he the Bucks OC? Hold on. Oh, that's Liam Cohen.
That's
Excuse
Liam
me.
Cohen.
My mistake.
Very close, yeah.
You know who Liam Cohen is, but you don't know who Liam Neeson is. Liam Neeson's a very famous actor.
I'm going to Google that guy.
You won't take you long to find him. He's been in a lot of very, very famous movies.
I mean, I'll take your word for it. I've not seen any of these movies, though.
You never saw Schindler's List, for example?
I have. No.
He played Oscar Schindler.
I have seen that one.
And more recently, he has been the star of a series of movies called Taken.
How many of those are there?
At least 3. And they're very good movies.
It's a trilogy?
And that's when he says, I have a very particular set of skills, which is a legendary line.
Why are you talking like that?
That's how
Because
he
that's
says
how
it.
he talks.
Oh, my bad.
And
I like how you say, I'll take your word for it, as if we're the ones who are lying or somehow, not knowledgeable about pop culture.
No, I just think sometimes you're pulling my leg. You're yanking my chain.
We're making up an actor and a line from one of his most famous movies. That's what you think.
And doing it in a voice, too.
The fact that you've never seen Taken is incredible to me.
Taken's.
There are many.
Yeah, there are 3
Well,
of
I'll
them plus
admit,
the TV
I only
show,
saw
too.
the first one.
Yeah, me too.
But it is a great movie. Anyway, the point of it is he has a very particular set of skills. So what I don't know, I think Caleb Williams is better clay than Bo Nix, but I don't know if what he does translates as perfectly to what Sean Payton wants. To say this again, if you look at the era in which Drew Brees played, context neutral, Drew Brees wouldn't have been one of the first 10 quarterbacks you took.
That's right.
Right? Because he's short and he's not fast and he can't do any of the other things. But he did exactly what Sean Payton coaches an offense to do, and he wound up having one of the 2 or 3 most productive careers in the history of the sport and will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. So that's what Bo Nix seems to be. He seems to be exactly what the coach there is looking for.
He's an operator. He's not an improviser. I get it. And I think Sean Payton had said on the record, at least in one of these broadcast meetings, that they had Bo Nix number 1 on their draft board. And obviously he's slipped to the middle of the first round, but I suppose that goes to what you're saying. He wanted someone to do the thing, and he can do the thing.
He can do the thing. What we'll never know is if one of these other guys had fallen to 12, would he have taken them instead? It doesn't make any difference, and I'll take Sean at his word. He's proving once again what an exceptionally good coach he is. And as far as, look, I think if you're a fan in Chicago, I think if you're a fan in D.C., I think if you're a fan in New England, I think if you're a fan in Denver, you feel great no matter what. I think you feel great on all 4 counts. Regardless of how we would redraft them, I think in all 4 cases, you feel like, I got my guy. Now, we know history tells us that almost never happens. This is supposed to be a 50-50 shot. If 4 of these 6 wind up hitting, that's already 66%, and the other 2 guys haven't even had a chance to play yet.
Well, that's the reason why I think the class could be generational, is because I really like Kevin O'Connell, and I happen to really like J.J. McCarthy coming out, and Michael Penix can freaking hum it. So those are the sort of wild cards here, and the reason why I think the class could be generational because of the 2 unknowns.
By the way, Hembo.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you.
I haven't any money.
That does sound like a 30-year-old Bo Nix.
And Liam Neeson said he had a very long career, as did Bo Nix in college. They have a lot in common.
So that's the bottom line of it. 12 weeks into the rookie seasons of a quarterback class is not a time to be proclaiming them one of the great classes of all time. But the great classes, which include 83, 2004, which is Eli, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger, and a select few others, these guys are off to the kind of start that make you think that way.
The Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Love, Hurts class could wind up being up there too.
It's pretty good.
I mean, that's a really good quarterback class. Who's to say what those guys will accomplish in the long run? But at least, to me,
that's good, though. That's good. I hadn't thought of that. Tua is excellent. If he stays healthy, he's going to have an excellent career. Burrow, I think, looks like he's going to be one of the great players of his era. I think Herbert, with Jim as his coach, is going to be one of the great players. Hurts, obviously, has been great. Who am I forgetting?
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love. That's a great class.